The Closing Bell, Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close, starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostic here with Alex Steele, taking you to the closing bell. Our global simulcast starting with help from Scarlett Fu, Carol Masser, and Tim Stenovic in the radio booth.
They're back.
As we welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg
Did you
platforms.
miss us?
We did miss you, and I hear that both you guys are a little under the weather. So if it's okay, Carol, I'll do all the talking for you. Is that all right?
Oh, like it's anything different from before?
It's a day that ends in Y.
Well, I'm just going to say we brought some of the green home to Wall Street. That's all we're going to say. Because we see pretty broad-based rally, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Romaine. I thought you were going to talk.
Carol, you set it up for me here. But we talk about those moves here, and the idea that you did get that rotation this week, a rotation that I think a lot of people have been pining for quite some time. I guess the big question is this going to be one of those situations where it all unravels when we come back on Monday?
Yeah, but the data confuses me because you have consumer prices, of course, cooling. That's what we got earlier this week. But then today we got wholesale prices that rose more than anticipated. So how do you square that?
Well, yeah, and we were talking earlier about how UMich came in lower, but then the inflation expectations also came in lower. So some of these things may not quite be adding up. But guys, I gotta say, it's really hard to sort of poo-poo the rally when the Russell 2000 is still having an incredible day. Like, it's off its highs, but still, it's up 1%.
I'm glad you brought that up.
An incredible week, too.
Yeah, because what did you say, Carol? 6% for the week?
6% for the week overall.
Yeah, so a big rotation yesterday out of the mega cap tech names and into those small caps.
And we should point out on a weekly basis, it looks like it's the strongest outperformance we've seen from the small caps going back to April of 2020. Of course, a lot of that aided by the big drop that we had in yields, a big drop in the dollar as well on the day and on the week. As for the day, here are your numbers. A Dow Jones Industrial Average in the green, higher by 0.6%. An S&P 500 in the green, higher by 0.6%. A NASDAQ Composite also in the green, higher by 0.6%. Your outperformer on the day, trying to separate itself, is the Russell 2000, a 1% gain on the day. Mid caps and transports also higher as well.
All right, so I'm just looking at the Russell 2000 since we're talking so much about small caps. Most names in the index today, over 1,400 to the upside. If we go to the big caps, Scarlett, same thing. It's pretty broad-based rally. You've got almost 400 names to the upside in the S&P 500.
Yeah, absolutely. Very broad-based advance. Look at the 11 sectors. The only sector in the red right now is communication services, which admittedly is fairly big because you've got names like Facebook in there, or I should say Meta, but it's not one of the decliners. You've got Netflix and Paramount dragging that particular industry group lower. As for the big gainers, consumer discretionary, materials, and technology all up by at least 0.9%.
All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers, if I may, in the Friday trade. I know we talked a lot about, obviously, the big banks because they kicked off the earnings season in a big way, but most of those names finishing lower today. We'll get into that in just a moment. Here's a gainer, though, in the financial space, and we're talking about Bank of New York Mellon, up about 5.25% in today's trade. It's the nation's oldest bank. They reported second quarter adjusted earnings per share that came in ahead of consensus estimates. So investors kicking that one to the upside. We saw a lot of movement in the EV space when it comes to some of the share names. Tesla, a gainer in today's trade, up about 3%. It was a top gainer in the NASDAQ 100. That's despite a UBS downgrade on concerns that the company shares have risen too much too soon, on optimism over its AI plans. There was a lot going on, but nonetheless, this analyst cutting it to a sell. 12-month price target was raised, though, to 197 a share. So very interesting. So nonetheless, though, Tesla now performer in today's session. I mentioned the EV space. Here's another one that saw some move to the upside. EVgo shares jumping as much as 20% in today's session, finishing with a gain of just shy of 19%. Benchmark raising the price target on the $1.1 billion market cap operator of EV charging stations to $5 from $3 a share, talking about increased charging network utilization and a recent positive shift in market sentiment. And one more, because we like the nuts and bolts when it comes to what's going on in our economy. And a great read on that was Fastenal. That company up about 2% in today's session, off its highs of the days. This company coming out and it posted inline profit and sales for the second quarter. So earnings season definitely underway here.
Okay, this one's not on my list of decliners, but we do have a headline from Meta Platforms, which did finish the day down by 2.8% today in the after hours. Not moving much, but I'm talking about it because we have a headline that Meta has removed Trump account restrictions, this according to Axios. As a reminder, following what happened in January 6, 2021, Meta Platforms, in addition to other social media companies, Twitter at the time, put restrictions on, at the time, the president's account there. He is certainly the front runner. He's not the official nominee yet, but that is coming very soon. We'll continue to bring you updates on that story as we do get them. Let's get to some other movers, though. Other decliners. Carol did mention some financial institutions that did move higher. I got ones that moved lower on the day today. I do want to start with shares of Wells Fargo, which actually saw their biggest drop since last year's regional bank crisis. Second quarter results were hit by higher than expected costs. Shares today fell by just about 6%. Expenses for the quarter climbed 2% to $13.3 billion. It was higher than the 0.2% increase that analysts had expected. The vast majority of that increase coming from operating losses. Analysts also pointed out the firm's higher expense guidance for the year. Also, keep an eye on shares of what happened over at Citi. The company reported earnings earlier in the day. They did pair a rally that had taken it up 28% this year through Thursday. Shares finished the day down by 1.8%. Citigroup said that costs for the year are now likely to be at the high end of the range it previously provided after the bank faced a series of regulatory penalties in recent months. And finally, keep an eye on shares of Snowflake. I saw that Chris Palmieri was on your air a little earlier talking about that AT&T hack. Well, Snowflake shares fell after AT&T disclosed a massive hack of customer data. Bloomberg News reported that the information was illegally downloaded from a Snowflake cloud platform, citing an AT&T spokesperson. Shares of Snowflake fell 1.8%.
All right, let's get to the bond market here, guys. It's been quite an interesting week, a rally all across the curve, but it's really been that front end where you've seen consistent buying, yields down about 17 basis points over the last 4 days. And that means you got the 2-10 spread continuing to steepen here. You're now down negative 27 basis points. We've been in kind of a range-bound mode, but many analysts are now looking for get into positive territory. We were talking to Tracy Chen over at Brandywine saying it's not the absolute level of the curve. It's sort of how fast we get there, how fast we get into that positive territory, guys.
Yeah, I do wonder if, folks that are watching certainly Bloomberg and looking at the rates environment, looking at the deal environment, like kind of all the stories that are coming out, maybe they're having those conversations not on the golf course, which has been traditionally the environment for folks to do so, but maybe they're actually having them on pickleball courts.
Yeah. So are you guys big pickleball players?
No.
I've tried it, but
What'd you think?
I don't know how you can have a conversation with someone because it's so
Aren't you
loud.
running all over the place or something? Yeah.
I know it definitely doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same sort of vibe as golf, where you're like walking with your clubs to the next hole, or riding in a cart with somebody. And it also doesn't take 6 hours like a round of golf takes me, I guess.
Wow,
but
you must be a really slow player.
Is that? I've not played golf in a long time. That's when you lose as many balls as I do, Romaine. That's how long it takes.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. I probably spent more on balls this past weekend than I did on the actual greens fees. But I am curious, to Scarlett's point, though, I mean, as somebody who's played pickleball a lot, it doesn't really seem conducive to conversation, at least not any kind of serious conversation.
Maybe the game goes quicker, and so then you hit the bar afterwards, and then you talk about a deal. Maybe it's something like that. It's more inclusive, right? You don't necessarily have to have.
It's also more aggressive,
like the skills.
though, right? It's a lot more aggressive.
Or forget about this. We all work from home, but our new home is the French Riviera instead of our actual homes. Apparently, this is a thing. Rich Americans who can do a 4-day work week and then they can work from home the rest of the time, they're now buying a property in the French Riviera. In fact, home price values are up or above $16 million along that beautiful southeastern coast.
Okay, that rules us out because we can't work from home.
We can pool it. Oh yeah, we can't work from home. We can set up a camera. We can pool our resources. You can get like a 1-bedroom.
I'm glad the French Riviera is having a moment.
Has it not ever had a moment?
That's what I'm saying.
Always
That's
have
what I'm
moments?
saying.
Well, that's what I was confused about too, because they kept saying how prices are going up, and I'm like, was this ever like cheap and affordable, like in the modern era?
And are they really working from home, or is it just a second property? Like, I don't know. Are they sitting there like at their computer working?
If you're in the advertising industry
you.
and you're going to Con Leon or whatever that advertising conference is, sure, you're working from home, sort of. And
I think the distinction is that London property was up 13% in the same period, but over the last 5 years, you've had the prices there up by like 20%.
Well,
the relative basis.
We pitched the idea of like doing a remote on the French Riviera, and we got quickly some messages back from our bosses like.
So Paul didn't like that. He wasn't super keen.
Well,
It was let's say it was even up the chain higher than that. Yeah.
and they just said, yeah, not going to happen.
Cool.
We tried. Anyway, guys, have a great and safe weekend. Even if it's not the French Riviera, be well. Pickleball, golf, whatever it is. Have a good weekend. We'll see you guys again, same time, same place on Monday.